My name's Ankur. Just for the context, I am the founder of Nearbuy.com, formerly Groupon in India. Been part of Groupon since it started in 2011. And last year, we went through a very interesting journey where we did a management buyout of Groupon's India business to create an independent entity, which is now called Nearby. It pretty much operates in the same space as Groupon did, and it's not the deals industry. There is nothing called a deals industry. Deals is a mechanism of selling, not an industry per se. So we operate in what I call the services commerce play, which is basically stuff that you buy when you're outside of your home and office, whether it's food and beverage, movies and events, spa and salon, health and fitness, things to do, hotels, so on and so forth. So that's our large domain. I loved what Sujayat had to say. It cannot have been more important for you to recognize that the market that you play in will largely determine the experiences that you have, and you should be operating in a market which has scale and impact potential right from get-go. We'd like to believe that that's the case here. It's a very, very virgin territory in the Indian context. The concept of buying a meal online and prepaying for that experience is unheard of. But go back 7 to 10 years when none of us were perhaps comfortable buying anything beyond a book online to today when we're just buying fundamentally everything online and are getting more and more comfortable about it. What I'm going to speak about is something that we've truly believed in the Groupon to Nearby journey and even beyond, which is experiential marketing. The fact is, as an internet company, it becomes very easy for you to think that the best way to engage with the customer is through digital marketing, social media, notifications, SMSs, so on and so forth. What we lose as an essence, which is something that FMCG companies have done beautifully and continue to do so, is establish a connect that goes just beyond transactional engagement. You have to get the customer to experience the brand, and that may come at the risk of not having immediate scale on day one. As internet entrepreneurs, the big thing that we get naturally attracted to is, can I get millions of customers on the first glance itself? Can I run campaigns on Google and on Facebook and wherever have you, where I get millions of impressions on the first day itself? But as an internet company, it's equally important for you to understand what is the small customer cohort that is most meaningful for you, and how do you engage with them at almost a personal level while being an internet company? How do you really get to a point where you are closely connecting with the customer in meaningful mechanisms? And that, to me, is what experiential marketing is all about. It's not digital, it's not mass, it's not scale, it's not millions, it's perhaps not even thousands. It's hundreds of customers, one at a time, closely interacting with them, understanding what is it that they drive and how it works for them as a brand. So I'll start with this quote, which is truer than ever before. Seth Godin is someone that I truly follow, and he says, we're not in the industrial economy anymore, we're in the connection economy, and connection creates value. Unfortunately, this is one thought that internet companies just give away. They don't realize that connection is extremely important. And again, going back to what Sujayat said, they recognize who the customer was and what was connection meaning for them, which is why they've done such a beautiful job at Wunik. If you do want to go down this path, and it's not an easy one, there are 5 questions that I suggest that you ask yourself as a brand. And that's the context of the conversation that I'll have with you guys. First, who should I target? Going back to the same thing, who is your customer? It's very important, particularly when you're going down the route of experiential marketing, to identify who are you going to have a conversation with. Who is really your customer, and what is that baseline that you want to establish when you speak to that customer? And I'll give you a good example that we went through when we were back in Groupon. We realized that our customer base, or let me just step back and give you that context. Our customer base, when you're running service economies and you're almost driving on price, it's very easy for you to say, hey, let's go after college students because those are the ones that truly care about deals and discounts. And those are the ones that will get you the best traction. They're the ones who are going to create virality. They're the ones who are going to say, boss, this app is great, you should download it, and colleges will spread itself, and then it'll be Facebook, it will go to Harvard and Stanford and Wharton, so on and so forth, and take over the world. Doesn't happen all the time. Or more importantly, you perhaps don't even want that customer in the first place. So at Groupon, we were very particular that our target audience was not a college student. even though they were seductively in front of us always. They were the ones saying, we want you guys, we love you because you have great discounts, but our entire thesis was they're not the ones that will get retained the most because they are not loyal. And we've all been to that stage. It's not nothing about college students particularly, but we didn't have enough money. You don't really have loyalty as well. You just exchange loyalty wherever it's most convenient for you. So we went after working professionals, people who were aged between 25 to 35 years of age, were working professionals, and were largely in metros, the top 5 cities in the country. And we said, we're going to go to them and speak in a language that was not about the cheapest thing, not about the lowest price, but about value for money. So it's not about having the cheapest lunch, but it's about having lunch at a place that you really like, but at a price that's attractive. And we did that time and again, and that's perhaps why we're still here, while a lot of others in this space died, pivoted, and so on. And we wanted to, we'd got to a point, this was almost 3 years into our journey, where we felt that we had to connect to our customers and find out how they were realizing our experience was. So we did this, and this was when The Dark Knight released. We went to PVR, and we essentially blocked out the Saturday evening show of The Dark Knight when it was released, and there were about 5,000 seats through that exercise, and we gave a 50% off on all those ticket pricing. And this was a Groupon-only exclusive show for Dark Knight. Now, there are 3 things that I want you to take away from that. Why did we choose Dark Knight when we could have chosen any other movie? It could have been a Bollywood movie, it could be in a Salman Khan movie or something like that. But because we realized when we went through the entire demographic of our audience that those were individuals that were somehow Batmanish. They were the superhero believers, they were the ones who liked superhero movies, they're ones who watched occasionally English movies. It's not that they were these elite forces that we find or not find on page 3, but they were just people who were believers in that superhero story. And we chose that consciously. We chose a Saturday evening which made it convenient, and in all these 12 cities and those 5,000 customers that walked in on a single day, we had the entire company deployed. Each one of us, all 220 of us back then, were there meeting those 5,000 customers, having a conversation, finding out what they wanted and loved about us, finding out what they hated about us, what could we have done better, what were areas where we had to improve upon, and it was this terrific experience. It was beautiful because at the end of it, they were like, we didn't realize that an internet company would be so high touch, and we were. And those 5,000, now that we go back, we're still measuring that customer cohort, 3,893 of them are still customers till date. And these are people who are regularly buying, like their absolute monthly purchase has not reduced at a per customer level, not even for a single month. It's not gone dramatically higher as well, but it's just stayed pretty much there. And that's just remarkable that that one experiment, which didn't cost us a lot at all, but was a very high-touch experiment, resulted in an experience like this. And this was one of the first things that we did, which gave us that drug that, hey, this might work. It's not high scale. It's not that we touched 5 million people in one time, but we touched 5,000 and it was meaningful. And they went back and spoke about us and spoke about the experience and so on. We then became a little arrogant. And we said, hey, this worked. So why don't we try something different? And then we tried the same thing when the Bung 2 launched. And we put up 5,000 tickets for sale, and 238 of them were sold. So we actually called the 238 and it says, would you mind taking the tickets back, or would you still want to come for the movie? And they're like, we actually wanted to come to meet you, so it's okay, we don't want to watch the movie. And we canceled that event. So suddenly we recognized, and no offense to Salman Khan, but it was a crappy movie, but the fact is, it wasn't our audience. It just wasn't our audience. But what we thought, and that was the mistake we made through this experience, was, hey, Dabang 2 will have a larger crowd. So instead of 5,000, we may have 10,000 people showing up, and we'll block out 2 days instead of 1. But let's go through that journey. It's that natural internet company scale seduction that we went through, but of course, it didn't work, especially when it comes to experiential marketing as a concept. But the first question was, who should I target? Second one was, how do I connect? How do I really connect with that audience? What conversation do I have with the audience? As a brand, it is very easy for you, particularly a commerce brand, to become very transactional, to say, here's what I'm selling, this is the price at what I'm selling, go and buy it, and you will either like the experience or won't like the experience, but give us feedback and we'll learn. It's harder, and if you haven't done that, please go back and watch this fantastic tech talk by Simon Sinek of the Golden Circle, which is the Golden Circle of brands. It's very easy as a brand to tell people what is it that you do and how do you do it. So it's very easy for me to stand and say, hey, we are a services marketplace, and we do that by working with merchants across the country and selling their services online. That's the how and what of our existence. The hardest question to ask is, why do you do what you do? Why is it that you get up in the morning? Why should anyone care? And why is it that it's important for the customer to believe in that? And go back to the best brands that you consume, the best brands that you think are reflective of truly ingenious brands, and you'll always realize that they're speaking about the why. They're always speaking about the why. Nike never talks about its sole quality and how awesome the fabric is and how fast you will run in that gear. They're always focusing on the athlete and the athletics of it. They're always focusing on the emotion of it. So when we said, experiential marketing has to be this mechanism of how do we connect. And we always knew that movies is a big thing in this country. We knew that Shah Rukh Khan is perhaps the biggest thing that has happened in this country, for good or for bad reasons. But the fact is that he is a terrific entrepreneur. I wish he was an equally good actor, but he's an awesome entrepreneur. I firmly believe that he's the best entrepreneur this country has ever produced. And I love hearing him whenever he goes on stage or whatever he does, so on. And the worst movie of his life, it's so bad I can't even remember it. Was it? It wasn't Chennai Express. Some other movie. Oh, New Year. Was it New Year? What was it? Sorry? Happy New Year. No, Happy New Year. So Happy New Year was releasing. We got in touch with Red Chilies, and we said we want to do something crazy, which is we want to run this opportunity on Nearby, which is about someone getting a shot to act with you in that movie. And we want to invite auditions from people who genuinely believe that they deserve more in life, because that's what we feel is what the Nearby brand is about. We believe that everyone who works really hard in their life deserves a lot more than what they get. And our way of doing that is by getting you great discovery, great pricing, and so on and so forth. It's a long stretch, but that's our belief. So we wanted to go down that path. And he loved it. He actually loved it, and he says, let's do it. So we created a property called One Way Ticket, and I'm going to show you a snippet of that. And the idea was Shah Rukh Khan himself recorded this video with Farah Khan, and they invited people for auditions, which was just clips that they had to. And basis that entire rigorous process, and people were flown into Bombay, and then there was an audition that Farah Khan herself went through, and there was one finalist who was selected, and he actually he had a 7-second scene, but he did have a scene with Shah Rukh Khan in Happy New Year. No one watched that movie, but there was there. And we created content out of that. We actually generated a lot of content, but we spoke with individuals who mattered. And this property went global. We didn't realize that. We only released it in India, but people applied it from across the world and so on. And I just wanted to show you content that, oops.
Hope is the heaviest weight a man can carry. When we imagine the future, we think we are capable of changing it.
The risk I have taken to achieve perfection in my acting is what I think gives me an edge and gives me a push to achieve it.
Some miss the opportunities that come knocking on the door. Others grasp onto it with incorrigible persistence.
अगर मैंने शाहरुख खान के साथ काम किया तो मैं सोचूंगा कि मुझे इस दुनिया में ही जन्नत मिल गई.
Their relentlessness to be in the presence of people that they have idolized.
I lay awake dreaming of this moment.
To be people that others can idolize.
If you're not there during my struggle, then don't expect to be there during my success.
And they travel from far and wide.
Lucky 10 to go and audition, or rather be in a Shah Rukh Khan film.
Not bereft of risk, of exposing themselves to defeat, giving every ounce of sweat, every bit of talent, constantly evolving for their betterment. Because anything short of greatness would be failure.
I feel like the king of this world.
एक बेवड़े का डांस चाहिए मेरे को. Superb, Sandeep. All the best.
Acting like it's my passion. That's the only thing I want to do in my life.
मैं कोई बेशरम लड़की नहीं हूँ.
Ambition should be made of sterner stuff.
Very pleasantly surprised by the level of talent that auditioned for me today.
500 auditions, 10 finalists. Take that one shot to live their dream. The opportunity of a lifetime.
तुम्हें यह मौका इस बार नहीं मिल पा रहा.
You've got it.
All right, let's! When you want something from your heart, no one can stop it.
The one-way ticket.
Groupon.co.in.
I'll believe that this worked if most of you did not know of this, because that's exactly the point. It wasn't meant for you. It wasn't meant for most of you. And that's the marketing that we wanted to think about. It wasn't a mass campaign. It wasn't meant for all of India. It wasn't meant for people who watch movies, but people who truly go through that struggle of Hollywood, Bollywood, and spending all those nights and days in Bombay trying to get to that stardom that perhaps most of them will never get. And those were the audiences that we were speaking with. Completely different line and completely different positioning from what an e-commerce internet company would take, but that's what we chose. So how do you connect? What is it that you really speak about? What's the message and the emotion you generate? Is the experience unique to the customer? Now that's something that we've always struggled with, because when you are a marketplace, you essentially do not have something that you truly own and is yours. When you're working with 50,000 merchants in the country, anyone else who works with 50,000 of those merchants will be delivering the same experience. And we struggled with that for a long time before we came up with this concept. And the genesis of that is Groupon and now Nearby at times suffers from this connotation that it's a massively discounted store. And the best brands in the country then have this hesitation that I don't want to be working with a brand that discounts themselves. And think of the Tajes, the Oberois of the world, and so on. And we have most of them working with us, but it's been a long, long journey, to convince them of why we make sense, despite their inhibitions. But there was this one particular brand, which we were really struggling to close, and we knew that our customers would love that brand to come on. And all conversations with the restaurant manager, with the owner, were not going anywhere, because they were very, very transactional conversations. They were focusing on the what and the how of our business. So we were selling stuff like, oh, we have 5 million people coming in, we do these many sales, we have all your competition already there, blah, 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 but none of that was cutting slack. And then we stepped back and said, this is clearly not working. Let's go back to the why of our business. Why do we really exist? And we drew inspiration from what we'd done before, which is, if we believe that our customers deserve more in their life because of the hard work that we do, why don't we believe the same thing for our merchants as well? And we went back and said, who is that individual who perhaps deserves the most love and attention at a restaurant, but perhaps rarely gets it? And we figured it's the chef. We realized that in India, the concept of actually acknowledging the chef and his or her work doesn't exist. While it is a very standard thing to do in the US, where if you have a good meal, you will actually call upon the chef, acknowledge them, perhaps tip them, and make them feel loved. But in India, we don't do that. You go to your favorite place that you've perhaps been to several times, and you wouldn't even know who makes that meal for you, and that's kind of unfortunate. So we then went back and says, we don't want to speak to the restaurant manager, we don't want to speak to this, can we get some time with the chef? And we went to the chef and he said, you are awesome, and you know that, and we want the world to know that. So why don't you create something that you truly believe is reflective of who you are as an individual, not the restaurant you're working with, not the menu that you have, but something that you believe is just rightfully yours. Like, what's the Warikoo in the Ankur Warikoo that we want people to see? Why don't you create that? And when we had that conversation, it was magical. Like, it was literally that aankhon mein aansu wala moment for him. It's like, oh my God, there's someone speaking to me as if I'm a human, and I get it. And that instantly helped us get those. So we created this property called the Gourmet Studio. And the property was about this exclusive, money can't buy experience at that restaurant, but by the chef. So we didn't talk about the restaurant. We didn't talk about what that place is, how awesome it is, what's the pricing and whatnot. We essentially spoke just to the chef, and we said, you make what you want to make, and we will sell it for you. And it will be a price tag that you can't compare, because guess what? You can't even buy it. It's not on the menu. It's not something that you have. And it's been a fantastic success. Again, when we sell those and go back to restaurants, we again get consumed by number of shipments and number of millions of customers and whatnot. For a restaurant to do this exercise for 2 weeks, if they get 600 customers, that's more customers they've seen in perhaps 2 months. So it's not that we sell 6,000, 60,000 of those. But whenever we run the Gourmet Studio, which we do every month, we have about 600 customers walking in, absolutely loving the experience, having one-on-one conversations with the chef loving it, and we create this brand of both customer and merchant aura that they love. And I wanted to show this to you.
French finesse, Spanish earthiness, and Italian love for the finer things. Mediterranean cuisine is truly about a passion for food. At Olive, we use the choicest ingredient and distinct flavor to create art. Every meal is handcrafted to be a totally unique experience. I'm Chef Dhruv. Come with me on an adventure of taste. Designed and curated by Chef Sujan, available exclusively at Nearby. To book this experience, log on to nearby.com.
And what we were very clear about is, so the second edition that we did of Gourmet Studio, this was the 5th edition, but the most successful one. The second one that we did was with the Leela in Gurgaon, and the chef there did not know how to speak in English. And we were like, okay, should we not? And then we just had this moment of truth. We're saying, you know what, it doesn't matter. And he will go through that experience, he will speak in Hindi, and we will still make it, but the fact is that we will always have the chef speak. Not some dubbed guy, definitely not some other random dude out there, but he will be the one always speaking. And the amount of engagement that this has created, we unfortunately have not been able to bring this to other cities, but Bangalore is definitely one where we want to. But it's been immensely successful in Delhi, and we've worked with absolutely the top restaurants that you can think of. Like the only one left is the Indian accent because Manish has been busy with something else. But fact is, every single restaurant that you can think of which truly has to be there on a platform from consumption perspective has been because of this. Only because we spoke directly to the individual that mattered and spoke about emotions and not about transaction. And this was what we did. Is the experience unique to the brand? What is it that the brand stands for? What is it that you want to communicate to the customer? And is it something that is truly unique to you? Again, going back to something that Sujay had said, find your niche, find your alternative, find what people will identify you for. So about a year and a half back, raffles as a concept of getting customers was becoming really big. But they were, in my opinion, all very low common denominator. So, hey, participate in this raffle and you may win an iPad, or you may win an iPhone, or you may win something fundamental, very, very transactional, and so on. And we said, if we have to up the ante, standing by what the brand wants to, what is it that we can do? So we created a very different raffle. And the raffle was Las Vegas for free. You don't have to pay any amount, nothing whatsoever. You just participate in that raffle. And if should you win, you will have an all-expense-paid trip for 2 to Las Vegas, which includes air tickets to Las Vegas, 5-night stay at the Bellagio, which is hands down the best hotel to stay in and Vegas, and about $500 to spend, which is almost like a mockery, but we wanted to complete that. We had about 20,000 odd people go through this experience. Now here was the thesis that we didn't know whether it will prove itself or not. But here was the thesis. Thesis 1. It's not an iPad or an iPhone or a product. It's actually an experience, which means people who love these experiences are the ones who will naturally get attracted towards it. And that is our target audience. That is our customer, someone who loves going out, consuming the offline world, and does it at great pricing. Thesis 2, because it's an international trip and will be to the US, it automatically has this barrier of you having a passport, you getting through the visa process, so on and so forth. So it's a natural filter to the kind of people that we wanted. Again, the likelihood that a college student would go through that experience is less, and that automatically self-selected the audience that we had. And thesis 3 is, if people really want to go and indulge with something like that, let's just see, and this was something that didn't prove itself for a long time, but now has. Did these individuals even care or connect with the brand just because we got them? Like, we acquired them for zero cost. We didn't pay any money for this entire acquisition, besides, of course, the cost of the trip, which was far lesser than the value that we created through that. But would these customers stay? They're zero price customers. There's zero commitment that they've made. They've not even put in their credit card, nothing whatsoever. But would they stay and would they engage? Out of those 20,813, 12,347 customers still continue to buy. It's been a year and a half. There was zero commitment that they had made to engage with the brand at the first level, but more than 50% of them still continue to engage. And we doubled that up. We did the Harley raffle, which was you get the Harley Davidson 750, absolutely free. But guess what? You'll have to pay for the registration charges, and that's 58,000. So only people who would believe that a Harley is actually worth an entire bike of 58,000 would then go with it. And that was the entire process. And then we up this again, so on and so forth. We are doing one raffle right now, which I'm going to talk to you about. But when you do these, we actually went back to those customers, those all 20,000 odd, and we asked them, what got you to apply? What got you to really even react to this? This was zero price. Like, why would you care about a lucky draw? Your chances are getting worse off with every new guy buying in. But they just said, we wanted to know what it was, and it was extremely different. No brand has done this kind of a raffle. And there is no effort from my side, so why wouldn't I do it? But once they did, they explored the brand that was, and it worked for us. And the last thing is, am I capitalizing on the content? And this is the most critical piece, because by definition, experiential marketing will not be at scale, as I mentioned. It'll be touching 500, 1,000, at best, people at one time. But what you do with that content that you generate truly makes that scale go wide. So all those videos that I showed and the content that we have created are used as an amplification factor once that property is over. That's the best and the smarter way to do that, because you're then amplifying that content and making sure that the world knows of it. That's what something like Coke has done unbelievably well all through, because their entire delivering happiness and pure happiness and open happiness campaigns have been about the fact that there is this one customer who we are truly touching, but the content that you generate to that experience is something that touches people far and wide. So we've done something interesting recently, and so we partnered with Marvel, and the Captain America movie is getting launched today. And what we did was we went to Marvel and he said, hey, you guys are, of course, spending an obnoxious amount of money in promoting this movie. What can we do together? What can we do together? And we didn't want something cookie cutter, because that's not what we believe in. We want something absolutely different. So they created something which was unbelievable. They said, all right, why don't you do this? Why don't you just get people to come to your destination and vote which of the two, whether it's Captain America or Iron Man, will win? Because no one knows who will win. So why don't you just have people come in and win? But by the process of that, we will have some sort of an engagement and some sort of visibility or mindset being devoted to that movie. And we will do a lucky draw of all the people who have rightfully voted for the team that eventually wins. And the prize will be that you get to fly to Atlanta and live the life like a superhero. So you will stay at the W, which is the hotel at Atlanta. You will go and watch a baseball match in the VIP lounge. You will drive an Audi R8, which is the same car that Tony Stark drives in that movie, so on and so forth. They created this exclusive experience only for us, and it's something that money can't buy. It's you living your life like a superhero for that 2 to 3 day period. And this is something that's happening right now. And this is the last thing that I wanted to talk to you about. So this Sunday is Mother's Day, in case you are not aware. And again, we wanted to do something special. And the special was not sell something which you can buy for your moms and all that, because of course you will all do that and we will all nice kids. But it's just about what can we do something unique. So again, this is a zero-priced offer. But the idea is that you essentially buy your mom a day out because you understand that your mom really works very hard every single day, never gets a break. It's the toughest profession in this world. So what we are doing is, at our expense, your mom will get a day off. So she'll be driven around in a chauffeur-driven car, get to go for a nice spa, have a nice meal, watch a movie of her choice, go whatever it is that she wants to do, so on and so forth. And I will fill in for her for that particular day. So whatever it is that she does, whether it's driving the maid, doing the dishes, ironing the clothes, anything is it that she does, I will essentially fill in for her for that particular day. So Ankur Warikoo will become, quote unquote, your mom for that day, of course, nowhere close, but your mom will get a day off and go through that experience. And we've had people just write in, like, it's such a nice thing, blah, blah, blah. But what we're doing is we're creating a story. So essentially, when we have people coming in, they're telling us about their moms. They're expressing themselves as entities and normal humans of what their mom has done for them and why they love her and so on. And we're creating this entire content around it. So hopefully by Monday is when we will have that piece all weaved out and then thrown back into the world of how this property panned out for ourselves. But this is launching today itself. So in the entire journey of Groupon to Nearby, we've looked at marketing from two very different lenses, as I would have hopefully established by now. One is that very cookie-cutter transactional way of doing it. And of course you have to do it, and if you get your CAC right, and if you get your CPCs right, and you get your CTRs right and all that. That's IQ work, easy to do. There are enough smart people who can do that for you, but it's easily a trap to fall into, because what you always lose out on as an internet brand is what is the emotional connect that you're making with your customers, how you're really speaking to them to establish some uniqueness, some identity, some differentiation that others are not able to establish. And pick up what is it that is truly your brand and what you stand for. Speak to the audiences that you know is exactly your audience base, and then have a conversation which is human. Have a conversation which is a natural language conversation. Not say things like, oh, we apologize for any inconvenience regretted, because that is legal law language. That's not how humans behave. When was the last time you spoke to your friend saying, oh, I apologize for any inconvenience I may have caused to you? You don't do that shit, so don't do that. Like, don't speak to your customers like that. And I always, like, the time I spend best is at the customer service desk, where I realize and recognize that, unfortunately, most of us train them to be very, very robotic and very low EQ. But the fact is that that by itself is perhaps the best marketing channel that you ever had. Because those customers are calling you when they're edge of most likely dropping out, disengaging with you. And at that point of time, if you're that company which will be on a moral high horse saying, I'm going to speak legal mumbo jumbo and just corporate lingo, you will have them check out. You will have them check out. So the next time you don't put enough people, but you have an IVR that says your call is important to us, kindly hold on, you're lying. because if the call was important, you would have picked up it by now. And that's the reality. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Ankur. So Ankur, I have to tell you that the theme for today is startup superheroes. So do we have a nearby superhero campaign running here for UnPluggd? All right. As a token of appreciation, may I now request the CMO of Indigo Nation, Shibani Mishra, to kindly give away a small gift to Ankur Warikoo. Can we have a huge round of applause? Thank you, Shibani. Thank you, Ankur. Some great experiential marketing tips and case studies.